Hello, welcome to Whittle Footy Talk. Today we have a very special guest, Mike Wilde, a goal scorer and Whittle legend. Welcome to the show, Mike. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, very good. I'm all good, thank you very much. A little bit tired from the past couple of weeks of playing, but yeah, all in all.
Still going though, aren't you?
Just about, yeah. I think that's what everybody that says that to me is becoming quite common now. Every time I meet somebody, still going.
Still going. I made up you're on the show today, Mike, because this is what the show's about, is getting people who've done great things on a Whittle, and you're still scoring goals now, even at this point of your career. You know, I know it's coming to the twilight years, but you're still scoring goals, still playing at a high standard, and you've done that throughout your career, so it's to share your experiences with people on the Whittle.
Yeah, no, look forward to it. Hopefully if it benefits anybody, just like from a football point of view, or the process that I took, it is kind of different to a normal kind of career within football as well.
Okay, great that, Mike. So let's start. Where did it all start?
Well, probably started for the love of the game, really. And that was just every Saturday going to Anfield, you know, with my dad. Not like it is nowadays, you know, he managed to smuggle me in over the turnstiles and that back in the late 80s, early 90s. Obviously, very successful Liverpool team as well. And it was just about watching football constantly every Saturday, getting the buzz, you know, a packed Anfield. And they turned into my heroes, and it was kind of my inspiration then to want to follow in their footsteps, the likes of John Barnes, Ian Rush, Peter Beardsley, Alan Hansen. I could name probably the full squad for that decade, really. But it was something that gives tingles down your spine every single time that you'd go to Anfield, and just the feel good factor really as well. And obviously that was when again it was standing as well, so you could stand, there was seats, so it was a packed Anfield that kind of like gave me that inspiration to want to play football. Didn't know I was any good at it, no, not really, until I started kicking a ball about in the garden, and then it was school football teams more so then.
So what schools did you go to, Mike?
I went to Lingham, which was in Morton. Now, back then as well, you know, we're talking a hell of a long time ago. School football wasn't kind of seen as at a good level. I mean, it has got better nowadays, but again, you'd always have a school football shirt on the inside and then a rugby shirt on the outside. It was irreversible, that type of stuff, and maybe you get one game every month and that. So it was more to do with the playground kind of street football that I used to play. So every break time it was us getting together, and then I become interested a little bit into it when I started scoring goals, and I realised I had a little bit of a knack for it.
So what age was that about?
That was we're probably talking about nines, and my dad found me a little local team called Welsh Wanderers. They were having trials, under nines team it was, and it was about, it kind of coincided at the time when I was going to Anfield on a regular basis. And unlike now, again, the sessions were totally different, not really structured. You know, you played in the big adult goals, I think it was 11 a side, you know, you had a big full-size pitch. Obviously now it's all changed in the way it's conditioned, and the amount of structures in each session at the under nines and that. So it was just a matter about getting the ball running as quick as you can, and every time the ball hit the back of the net, and sometimes we didn't even have nets as well, it was that feel good feeling of lads jumping on you and patting you on the back, and that kind of like really enticed me into wanting to proceed further and further within the football.
So you were scoring goals at an early age though?
Yeah, there was. There was Welsh Wanderers, then I moved on to a kind of rival team with Asheville, and that was in the Eastern League, Eastern setup. That was very successful, and we had a rivalry between Welsh Albion, which was then a lot of the Woodchurch lads, which I still see now and get on with. And then I made the move over to Welsh Albion then as well. Constantly always scoring goals. I think around the Asheville days, that was when I started playing schoolboy football a little bit more regular. When I went into secondary school, which was Hilbury High School. Didn't have the best footy team in the world. Probably there was me and another lad from Hoylake, Paul Rowlands. We stood out a little bit, and we were getting interest in other football teams, and some academies started sniffing, and we decided to sign for Asheville locally, and grassroots football was brilliant for us. You know, I loved every Saturday, every Sunday. played as much football as what I could when I was younger. But it was that initial buzz of scoring goals that kept me going. Probably didn't know what I was doing much on a football pitch, and that theme kind of continues right the way up to the ages of almost 18. Until I started getting more knowledge and start getting a bit more understanding. And at grassroots that time, you weren't really educated or told where to run, how to run, what you were running for. Yeah. Unlike today, where there's a lot of assistants and top quality coaches out there at grassroots football. And one of the reasons why it should be heavily invested in as well, like going forward.
Definitely.
But yeah, that took us up to Hilbury days. And I started playing for Whittle schoolboys, Cheshire schoolboys. That's when it started getting a little bit serious, and people started taking a little bit more notice of me.
So when you were leaving school, when you were leaving Hilbury, what did you want to do? What did you aspire to do?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I was probably put all my eggs in one basket, really. I did want to just play football. I neglected my education a little bit. Even when I was playing in school football teams, I actually thought I was going to make it no matter what. Quite blinded about that fact, and it was a shock when I left. And I seen lads getting academy deals and getting the first year the scholarships and 2-year scholars, and I was running out a lot of time, and then I had to start playing a little bit of catch up.
Okay, so then you signed for West Kirby back down here?
Yeah. So what happened? I come out of the youth phase of grassroots after playing for. I actually made the switch back. So what happened was I was at Asheville, but then I went over to Wallasey Albion because they were more successful. And obviously I wanted to be playing in the best team on the Whittle at that age group, so I could have scouts looking at me. And that's what I did. And then I went and decided to play for Shafts as well, because I fell in a little bit of an age bracket where I could play for a year younger. I was actually one of the youngest in my year, which I think, when looking back, probably did affect me a little bit. Physical development and stuff like that probably held me back a little bit. There was bigger lads in our Whittle schoolboys team and our Cheshire schoolboys teams. So I was playing a little bit of catch up, so I thought I'll put myself in an even more prime position and go and play for Shafts with a very successful team in Shafts. However, it became too easy. They were winning 15-0 and 14s, 15-0, and
how many were you getting there?
Yeah, I was getting a few myself, but there was also like a bit of a running order, and they'd been together for a long time. A bunch of lads had been together for a long time, so I wasn't doing myself any favours. I wasn't stretching myself, and I knew I was probably playing under my capability levels as well. So I decided I needed to go to senior football at the age of 16 straight away and play West Cheshire. And it came about where West Kirby. I was actually I went into a shoe shop in Morton, it was, and I was fixing my Predator football boots. Obviously they don't come cheap, so if you get a little tear in them, I was the first one up there to get them sewn up or glued or whatever. And it was the owner of the shoe company actually has West Kirby. He was the chairman of West Kirby, and he recognised my face, and he watched me play for Asheville and Whittle schoolboys, etc. And he just said, next year, next season, do you fancy signing for West Kirby? And I was like, I'm not too sure what I'm going to do. It wasn't fussed. And it was the first time actually that somebody approached me and said, well, I'll give you a little goal bonus, every time you score. We'll give you a little bit of an incentive. And we started getting paid for West Kirby, and it was per goal. I think I ended up scoring a good amount that year because of the incentive of it. And I remember it so well because it actually paid for my first holiday. At the end of that season, I had a lump sum and got paid for my first holiday, and I had 2 weeks, I think, in Fallaraki, which was the place to go at the time. So that they were good memories. The next season, slightly different. It was more Poulton Victoria started sniffing about. I think
big club, the Vex.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'd done well. I think I made a good statement within West Cheshire football, and the Vic's first team was doing things the right way. Again, they started paying players. They had a very good setup. They had a young manager, Neil Young, and he approached me and he said about coming for pre-season training and a few friendlies and that. So I did, I thought I'd be a million miles away from the actual standard, if in all honesty. And then I started scoring for them as well. And I started doing all right. And then we had 3 friendlies, 2 against, I think the 2 against a Welsh Prem club, TNS and Bangor. And then 1 was against, I think it might have been Stockport County, and 1 English club. I scored in every fixture, and I ended up having phone calls. And this was the age of 17. I'd gone to college, but it was just to pass a little bit of time. I think whilst I was buying time, think what could I do? Yeah. And I'd done a sports course just because that was in my nature, because I put all my eggs in one basket when I was younger. It was just staying in that kind of field, that environment. So I was to and from West Cheshire College, doing my BTEC and travelling and playing for Poulton Vicks. And then an opportunity came up after I'd done all right. I had Pete Davenport, who was at Bangor, Kenny Mack, who was at TNS, who were full-time. And I had a couple of little sniffs as well in the English system, but the full-time aspect of playing football is something that I dreamt of when I was a little lad. So when that opportunity presented itself, I think a discussion between Kenny and Youngie obviously happens, and they let me go up and start training with them on a regular basis because they were full-time.
And that's how you ended up at TNS?
Yeah, that was my first year professional contract, the age of, I think it was 18 in the end. I think I'd done the first 6 months. I think they had a little look at me in 6 months, and I wanted to finish me course as well. Yeah. That started. So it all tied in really. And TNS, I was a little bit of a part-time player, as in coming off the bench, scoring a goal. I integrated quite slowly to a team that was looking to obviously win the Welsh Prem in the first year that they were going full-time. Had
TNS moved to the ground then, the new ground? Or
no. So we were based up in Llansantffraid, which was a mission to get to. It was about an hour and 20 minutes, a little bit of a trek. But what was convenient, and bearing in mind I didn't know anything much about football. I was still learning. I was still brand new. As I said, I didn't know any movements. Didn't know what they was expecting of me on and off the pitch really. And they actually trained at the Pavilions, which was in Runcorn, which is still there now. And it was just basically a park. So every morning we'd meet up there, but then our home ground would be in Llansantffraid, and almost the middle of Wales, I suppose, a good hour and 20-minute drive into Wales. So it was hard to configure my head around what these lads are getting paid to play football, getting paid to how was it all working, because I wasn't used to it. The only thing I ever knew was obviously local football within Tranmere Rovers, Liverpool, Everton, all the big clubs. So I was doing my own research, even though I'd just signed, I think I initially signed a 1-year contract with them on a little bit of a part-time, full-time basis, but I was getting in as much as I could. Yeah. And I'd done really well in my first season. I think I ended up scoring a good 10 to 15 goals, which was good when I was coming off the bench, really.
Was Kenny Mack a big influence for you, Kenny McKenna, because he was a centre forward himself, wasn't he? So,
yeah, it was perfect timing for me. Probably couldn't have a better first manager, and somebody probably to teach me the ropes and what I needed to do in order to be successful as a young striker as well. The lads used to call me, I was his prodigy, it was, which I didn't mind being at all, you know. Yeah. And when people used to say, oh, Kenny Mack's got TNS, and I didn't know who Kenny Mack was at that time, so I done my own little bit of research in that, and Kenny took a gamble on me, you know, he certainly did. He put a lot of faith in me, especially in the early years, and hopefully eventually it repaid. But that learning process probably was from the age of 18, but I wouldn't say, and again, it took a while, you know. I did not really. I started learning at the age of 18. Started almost learning a trade at the age of 18. Whereas I was playing catch up. That's why, unfortunately, when the Wrexhams and the Tranmeres were looking at me at the age of 16s, I was missing a large chunk of that knowledge. And I think that's, you know.
And did going to TNS, Mike? Sorry, did that going to TNS bridge that gap? Do you think?
Yeah, it started. No, it started the process that I should have or wished I had at 14. Yeah. And I think then the pathway that I probably went would have been more traditional, you know, academy route. Yeah. I wasn't far off standard-wise with the academy, but I don't think I got told. I was sat down and I didn't have that day-to-day drilling of academy style kind of football, which isn't always a good thing nowadays, but back then it was miles apart.
There was a big gulf.
There was a massive gulf. Now obviously the coaches at grassroots levels have really shot up to the standards of what academy football's all about, etc. But I missed that. We literally, back then when I was playing in the early ages, as I say, you literally had a ball, big pitch, and it was do what you want. It was a big game almost, and you had to figure it out for yourself. Whereas the other lads in the Wirral schoolboys probably had more of a structure when they were going into Tranmere, when they were going into Burnley, wherever they were going, and you could see even down to the touch. The age of 18. I mean, my touch was horrendous, I remember. But what I did do is I made up for it because I knew possibly how to score a goal, get myself in good positions. I was a hard worker. I had a good work ethic, and all the things you'd want out of a young player. But I was raw. I was sushi raw. Sushi raw. So I was. And I remember Kenny always saying to me, you need to have a look at videos of yourself. Things were getting filmed then. Have a little look at yourself. What could you do better? Reflect on it. Where could you have gone? And that was the beginning. That was the beginning of the process, which the process was, again, probably a good 5 or 6 years. And it's continuous. I'm learning things now. I
actually went down to TNS when I was doing my B licence and Kenny helped me on it. And I remember going down where they had the rifle ranges.
Yeah.
So we went down, and at the end of the session, there was you, Juice, the keeper, the Irish keeper, and there was Kenny.
Yeah.
And then I seen you just doing this drill, so I stayed and watched. And it was unbelievable, the detail that Kenny was still putting in the thing, but how hard you worked, and Juice, who was just putting balls in top corners and trying to beat a great goalie as well.
Yeah.
And it was a really, really high standard just drill at the end of training. So anything out to the kids there at the end of training, you've still got to continue and practice your own little bits, haven't you, Mike?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I remember even before Juice, at the early days, I'm talking the ages of 17 and 18, when I was training with TNS as well, there was Steve Antrobus, who was a big forward. He had a really good career, obviously years ago, played for Wimbledon and that. And I didn't base my game around him, but what he was very good at is hold-up play. And I remember Kenny was a big advocate for that as well. He wanted his number 9 to be able to bring other people into play and just work the 18 yards. A traditional number 9, which you don't see many of them nowadays, which probably puts me in a little bit of a group now, even now, even still now people are looking for that traditional number 9. So I based my game a little bit around that. I remember doing touch boxes, which I still do now with the lads at Tranmere as well in developments, which is just literally like a 4x4 square or a 5x5 square, and you've got your right back or your centre halves or your midfielders firing balls into you at a good pace, and you just can't let it go out of that square, and you're passing the ball back, you're constantly on your toes, little bits of movement. They're the type of drills that I was doing on a constant basis, like you said. That was when I started seeing my game progress a little bit more, a little bit more, because I only had one element to the game, which was scoring goals. Not a bad element to have, but it can only sometimes play you into a team. I believe it can only play you into a team on certain games at certain times. Whereas if you become a little bit more holistic and you have more strings to your bow, hold up play, appreciation of other people around you, all that type of stuff, movement.
The all-round bigger picture.
Yeah, exactly, I mean, I've never been blessed with a load of pace, which is probably helping me nowadays because my game isn't changing much. It's adapting and you do have to tweak it here and there, but I've never relied on it. So I was making sure that I was doing the right things, and the other thing was like my strength as well. I was not a skinny kid, but I wasn't well built. But what I needed to make sure I was doing, I was going into a senior league. I was 17, 18. I needed to make sure.
Up against big lads as well.
Up against big lads. So I needed to make sure. I remember, again, Steve Antrobus was going, make sure you're doing your sit-ups, your press-ups, 150, 200 a day and that. And it was being kind of regimental to myself and trying to build. And with TNS, we didn't have a mass of money. It was just built on doing what you had to do when you could do it, really. And it's simple as doing press ups and sit ups. Not a big massive gym available or nothing like that. It was literally like almost like one of them Rocky films where your Man United and that got all the gear and we had none of it. But it was.
But you had the hunger to.
Yeah, it was valuable for me though. Really valuable for me. and learning off some of them ex-pros. I really took as much as what I could do, and even down to Juice. I mean, Juice was probably one of them ones who did have just that finishing ability.
Yeah.
You know, but he was, you know, he scored thousands of goals, hasn't he? So, you know, he
So
was
you
good for it.
yeah. So you're at TNS now and you're progressing, and obviously things like Europe start coming up, European football, you start winning league titles. But just one thing I want to go before we touch on that, Mike, is do you think it's a knack scoring goals? That was one of my questions when you were talking there, but I didn't want to pop in. Is it a knack? Is it where to be on the pitch? What's your basic thing to be a goal scorer?
I think you do have a sixth sense. I think you do have a place where you know, not so much the ball's going to land, but where you need to be. I've always thought if I make first contact, wherever I'm running into the box, whether it be 6-yard box, 18-yard box, whichever one it is, if I get first contact on it, then I've kind of done the job. I've made the ball look very good from a wide position or a long position. I've done my mate a good turn by making it look a good ball.
Like a bad pass, a good pass.
100%, yeah, big advocate for that. And then obviously you've got, then can you turn it into actually the ball going over the line? And that's something that if you're in that place and you constantly find yourselves in that place, eventually it is going to happen. No,
Is it instinct?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah,
because you're talking like split-second decisions, aren't you?
Yeah, you are. I think it is. I don't think. I mean, it can be coached. I mean, and technique can be coached, but that kind of sixth sense of knowing just to, when that defender checks his shoulder, you know, then you're on the move because you've got him for that split second.
Yeah.
Then it's all about time, and then it's all about the right type of ball, etc., and stuff like that. And generally, I'm one where I'll finish things first time. There won't be 2 or 3 or 4 touches, because by that time the time's gone. You know, that's for the technical, the proper technical plays, them type of finishes.
But there's a lot happening, isn't there? Just before you strike the ball, a little look at the goalie. You've just said coming on the other side of the defender when he's checked. There's a lot of things that go into them little decisions in that split second, isn't it?
Before that happens, you're always scanning, so you're always constantly checking.
Scanning's a big thing.
Yeah, so you're scanning the keeper's whereabouts. The first 5 minutes of a game, I'll probably have a little check of the goalkeeper a few times, just when the ball's in and around the 18-yard box, just to see where he is. So then when that ball's coming, I'm not double checking 3 different positions.
Yeah.
I've got vague ideas.
Brilliant.
And again, I mean, it's so cliche, the goal never moves and all that type of stuff, but ultimately you get half a yard, you are aiming for either side of the goalkeeper, you know, and if you manage to get a quick shot off, anything that's in and around him, you generally got a good chance of it, you know, going in, because you can't react to something that's low down towards his feet as well.
So if you hit a ball in the air, am I right in telling the kids this? If you hit a ball in the air, it takes a second to move his arm up. If he dives, it takes you're buying seconds.
Yeah, I mean, the other day I can recall a header. When I first made contact with it, I thought that's in the corner. That's a great header. I thought happy days. And then I've watched it back, and it's a perfect height for the keeper. I got everything wrong about it. Really, probably should have headed down, all that type of stuff. But it does happen that quick, and sometimes you'll be in a game where you might need 4 chances to score your 1 goal, and then other games it might just be 2 and 2. You might get 2 chances, 2 goals. So it is almost a little bit of a lottery as well. You know, instinct. It is just like sometimes you're hitting the ball at a place where you've hit it before previously, and you're hoping for a little bit of luck as well.
That's brilliant, that, mate. I think there's a few tips there for young players coming through, young centre forwards. Yeah. So you're at TNS now, and you're starting to win things now, aren't you? Because there was a patch where TNS didn't win nothing for a bit, then he brought Juice in, started winning, brought yourselves in, started scoring more goals, then the trophy started to come.
Yeah, I think there was building blocks in place. I think Kenny took a team that was, obviously we were full time. I think it takes time for you to gel. And also I think just because we were throwing a little bit of money out at ex-full-time players or lads coming from the league, people think it's just going to happen like that, and it doesn't. You know, you have to work on your system. You got to work on obviously combination plays and getting to know each other. And I think we missed one of them by, I think it was Real, 1 year. Pipped us to the post, I think, in the last week or 2 of the season. And then that was a big knockback, but then eventually European, you know, ties were starting to come thick and fast, and and we started winning things. You know, we had games against Man City, obviously, as well, in the early days. And then that's where a little bit of belief came as well, that we were good enough to actually win leagues as well. I think the year after, and that's when we actually won it.
That's brilliant. So we'll just touch on Europe, Mike, because you've played a few games in Europe, haven't you?
Yeah, there's been a few.
Am I right in saying first Welsh hat-trick?
Yeah.
Welsh
That was
hat-trick.
just before I left my second spell at TNS, that was. So that wasn't too far ago, that was about 5 years ago, that was,
Yeah. And also, did you score the most goals in Europe?
Yeah, most goals as well. At the moment, I think I'm on 9.
You still hold the record?
Yeah, I believe so. I think so.
So we're the lads flying the flag.
I think so. Yeah.
So you start playing in Europe. What's that like? Like going to, play City, play Liverpool. We'll touch on Liverpool in a minute, but going to play cities and even these clubs abroad, where you're going, like the Czech Republic and places like that. What's the experiences like there, Mike?
Unbelievable. To even get paid to play football full time's one thing, but then to go be able to see the world, see Europe and having these experiences against these European teams, and well known with a lot of history, with big budgets, massive budgets. It is unbelievable.
Different crowds. What's the crowd?
Yeah, exactly. There's Legia Warsaw, absolutely phenomenal.
I've seen them. They've got a section just for nutters.
So he's got one fella. He's just like an orchestra. He conducts. Doesn't even watch the game, so he's just on a big massive pedestal, and all he's doing is conducting throughout minute 1 to 90. Absolutely unbelievable experiences, but probably that was the biggest draw about playing in the Welsh League and the Welsh system for me. Obviously the early years it was about full-time football. My first phase with TNS, it was about playing full-time football, learning a trade, getting as far as I can. And then it turned into like wanting that more constant competition of European football year after year. I think you play your Welsh Prem games in order to make sure that you're in that tournament or one of them cups come the end of the season.
Were you just in the Welsh structure then when it was just finding its feet in Europe as well? Because teams were still playing full seasons while you just had your break and coming back, wasn't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, that does make it a little bit more difficult. On fitness level.
I think is that changed now? But now you're in Europe now.
Yeah, it has a little bit. It has. I just think there's always going to be a gulf in fitness levels, I think, with the structure that the Welsh Prem's got, and also then the European teams have got on, so they're always going to have that kind of edge, and the fact that the budgets are massive as well, and the type of players that they can attract really as well. So we're always up against it. But I see that as a real big challenge. I like being the underdog in that circumstances. You generally go from being favourites when you're playing in the league, and then it's a complete like flip reversal. So really good learning experience as well.
So your first big one, was that at Man City?
The biggest one, the first big one was Man City. For a number of reasons. It was just when they had the big takeover and they started getting some big hitters in. Like Nicholas Anelka coming in, some legends like obviously playing against David Seaman, Robbie Fowler, Sean Wright-Phillips. That was their squad, so they were starting to. I think Kevin Keegan was the manager there.
Was that at the new ground or the old ground?
So it was just as they started getting into their new ground in the Etihad,
Brilliant,
I think it was called the City of Manchester Stadium at the time. We were the first ones, and another little history cue call was the fact that we were the first team to play competitive football there as well. Wow. So in the Europa League that was. So that was back in probably 2003.
How did that go, the game? The build up to it and the occasion.
Excitement, I mean, I was only 19 myself then, I think I was. I come on at the City of Manchester Stadium, the build up to it, obviously all over the papers. Very nervy. I just wanted 5 or 10 minutes to show what I got. Very difficult because your backs are always up against it. I think it ended up being 3-0 at their place. Oh, sorry, it was 5. I think it finished 5. And then another great experience because we managed to play at the Millennium Stadium in the reverse leg. Again, that wasn't a sellout, but it was still, great experience. The roof came over as well, and it was bizarre. It was like playing in a big massive indoor arena. You know, when you kick the ball, there was an echo around there and stuff. It was brilliant, great experience.
Gaining that experience, it's brilliant.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, so you had that one, and what about the Liverpool one? Because you just said before, you know, you're a big red and you've been going to match with, or through your younger years.
Yeah.
And now to go and play at Liverpool.
Well, it was a boyhood dream, you know, absolutely was. Ticked every box for me. I remember saying to my dad when we used to go, I said, I'm going to play on Anfield, Dad. Yeah. You know, I want to play on it. That's my ambition. I want to. I wanted to be in a red shirt. Don't get me wrong. But eventually, you know, I did it to a certain kind of capacity. So it was surreal, bizarre, almost like you were in a little bit of a dream as well. Yeah. Especially because before that, apart from the Man City, and I came on as a substitute at the Man City one, never really had any big game experiences. It's always been, and not disrespecting the Welsh League, but probably only in front of, you know, your 1,000, 2,000s. Yeah. There wasn't a major.
I think probably Bangor would have been the biggest one.
Yeah, or possibly a real, yeah. You know, and that's taken away obviously the Man City experience and stuff. And we had some really good pre-season friendlies against like higher opposition in the Premier League to get TNS's profile out there and that. But this was a competitive game.
It was on the telly as well.
It was on the telly. Yeah. They were European champions. You're playing European champ. They just won the European Cup, the Champions League, only I think it was 4 or 5 weeks ago. So gearing up to all that was bizarre, but the actual process to it was a little bit peculiar as well. I mean, I remember we obviously didn't know we had Liverpool, but we were out in Mexico, and the build up to it was Liverpool weren't going to finish in the top four. They would have had to win the Champions League in order to qualify for the Champions League. Possibly something similar that they're going to have to do this year as well. We were out in Mexico and we'd already qualified for the Champions League, TNS and that. So I remember picking up the paper and Mike Harris, the chairman of TNS, like he does famously, kind of made a big deal about. He said we'll play you on a one-off. This is before we said we'll play you for a one-off for your place. Yeah. You can buy the place off us, you know, to gain access and that. I think he was just trying to get a bit of publicity out of TNS. But on the back of the paper, it was coming up with like TNS total nutty solutions, you know, because he was trying to gain a little bit of momentum. So already building up was a bit bizarre because we were getting a lot of publicity. Yeah. Now then to get actually drawn against them. That was even more and surreal. And going back to the day of it, I remember it like it was tomorrow. Really, we were training at Vauxhall's, which is only up the road, obviously, and I was injured at the time, only because I'd done extra running to try and get me prepared for the Champions League campaign, and I think I had tendonitis and. I had tendonitis, so I was struggling to run. I was struggling to get my fitness right. And all our lads were out on the pitch, and Sky cameras came round to Vauxhall's, and we were all in the snooker hall watching it on a big screen, the draw, whilst Kenny and the lads were training all outside. And there was about 6 injured lads all watching the draw with these Sky cameras on. Bearing in mind, we knew we were pooled together. Possible 1 in 12 chance, I think it might have been. The first name that came out was Liverpool, and we were all a little bit nervous. And then next minute it said TNS, and the place just erupted, and we legged it out onto the pitch, onto the 4G.
And they're all saying what's going on.
Oh yeah, all these injured lads, one with a bad calf, me with my tendonitis, I'm jumping up in the air and that, and they're all looking round, and we've got them, and that. So it was surreal, and then 5 minutes later all the injured lads had their boots on and they started doing doggies and that because they wanted to be fit for the actual game. Yeah.
So you played in Europe for Liverpool. Just go through the game, Mike, because it is big point. Just go through the game. How you know, you walk out the tunnel, you're into the game. Was it fast and furious? Was it a different level?
Oh yeah, it was relentless. But I mean, even before that, I remember thinking,
Am I just right in saying you played up top on your own?
Yeah, I played up top on my own.
Yeah.
Obviously, we didn't go gung-ho. we were quite reserved, which I think was the right approach. Before that though, I was really scared, thinking that I wasn't going to get named as a starter as well, because obviously Juice scored probably more goals than me that year, you know. I mean, I probably set most of his up as well, and I scored a few myself, but I was still thinking that I might not have got a start. So the night before, when I got told, was one of the best. It was great feeling. It was probably like getting told they had a professional deal, you know, like you would do as a YTS. And I thought, this is my stage. I thought, this is brilliant. When I thought this was my stage, it's everything that I wanted to do, walking out on Anfield,
like
all
a
that type of
pinnacle
stuff.
career.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So the build-up started there from there on in, but it was surreal when you're lining up. Obviously, it was the old little tunnel, as well. So it's very tight, and you're standing next to some of your idols, your Steven Gerrard, your Xabi Alonso, whatever. Just been watching them play in the Champions League final in Mexico about 3 or 4 weeks beforehand.
And you're going loggerheads at them. And
in their next competitive game. Yeah. Really. When I say it's exciting, I was also frightened. So as I've walked up to the steps, I found it quite intimidating. I couldn't look to see the surroundings. Probably now, with experience and the age of me, probably would now take a hell of a lot more in.
Take it in more.
Yeah. But it was a frightening prospect
to have a little, because you don't want to let anyone down for the start. You don't want to let yourself down. You don't want to let the team down. You know, you're on a big stage, aren't you? So you know, you've, like you said, it's the pinnacle of your career. You've worked on, so you've got all them feelings going through you. So that must be hard as well. Like
it is now. The expectation. I mean, if it was one of them where the expectation of us was actually to win the game as well, it'd probably even be tenfold. It'd probably even be more.
Yeah.
We were really, and you know, we were going out to enjoy the experience. You know, even much so. When we're in the tunnel, people are already asking for lads' shirts. You know, like knocking Stevie Gerrard on the shoulder. I got a shirt in the end, but I wasn't concerned about that. I was more worried about my own performance.
Yeah.
And even though it was the champions of Europe and obviously my boyhood team, I didn't want to think about it too much.
Yeah.
I wanted to think about my own performance, not letting me down, not letting my family, friends down. And
were you thinking as well, I want to score?
I wanted a chance.
Yeah,
I wanted a chance. The scoring was in the forefront of my mind. That's all I wanted to do. Yeah. You know, so it was very difficult to get out the mindset of just being focused, and so the enjoyment of it probably wasn't there as if it would be now, which is disappointing but understandable at the same time.
Who were you up against, Mike? Who were the two centre backs?
So it was Jamie Carragher played as a centre half and Hippier, and then we had Reeser on the Liverpool had Reeser on the left. I think it might have been Darren Potter on the right. I think that was Darren, and then it was Alonso, Gerrard. Morientes up top. Yeah, you'd think I'd remember the whole team, wouldn't you? But
I don't think you would after you're saying all them emotions. You can easily forget about that because you just, like you said, you're concentrating on your role, you're concentrating on doing well. Yeah. You know, so... And we did well. You know, we really, you know, Kenny got us in a really good structure, played almost like a 4-5-1, and packed the midfield out. But going back to, like, what were they like? I mean, the standards of where we were at and the standards in comparison to them are miles apart. You know, you talk about Steven Gerrard, you talk about Alonso. Very hard to get anywhere near them. Very hard to even be predictable and show one way. Yeah. The switch was constantly on, moved us about. I think it was when Gerrard was just getting tapped up by Chelsea as well. You know, it was his big game back at Anfield after, I think there was a little bit of hoo-ha. Yeah. So he had a point to prove. He didn't help. Yeah, and he proved his point because he scored 3. You know? And similar when he went back to when we were back to Wrexham's ground as well. I think he scored another 2. But overall, both legs, it was really good. And a great experience. Brilliant experience.
And
did he look after you after the game, Mike?
Yeah, we went up there. We were all in the players' lounge all together. Liverpool players, their wives, us, our girlfriends, our family, everything
Brilliant.
like that.
So everyone experienced it.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I mean, even down to going to get tickets. I mean, TNS don't traditionally have a load of fans, but we must have had the whole of the Woody there. I'm sure I think Tommy Owens made sure he got everybody tickets.
He was selling them outside the Woody pub.
For double the price, I think.
So you had 2 stints at TNS, didn't you, Mike?
Yeah.
So you go from TNS to Fleetwood.
Yeah. I mean,
so how did that come about?
So 2005 was the experience of Liverpool, and then we went on and started winning the league constantly, season after season after season. We moved then to the new ground, which they're in now, which was a bit of a not a difficult transition, but it was a change. It was 4G, another challenge, different type of style of play. I enjoyed it. It was kind of like the new thing in the Welsh League to be seen, to be going on to 4G. It was the way everybody was going with it. They were the first ones to come up with the idea and go forth with it from a community aspect, I think, as well. So TNS were going in the right direction, but I'd spent probably 6 years there then, and I'd done it, and I don't regret it, but I'd done it to have security within my career, in my own personal life as well. So TNS looked after me with long contracts, contract that I possibly wouldn't have had in the English leagues if I was to go over. But that was all good and well, but there came to a point where people were saying, oh, that's it, you're done, you'll be staying there, that you're not going to go over to England or anything like that. And it was niggling at me, and at that time we weren't that dominant, so I don't think we were top. I think we were second. I think Kenny just left as well, and new manager was coming in. It was there was a little bit of change behind the scenes, and I was playing week in, week out without actually playing well, and there was no competition for my place either. I probably took it for granted a little bit, and I come comfortable, and I needed a fresh challenge. And I was forever saying to people, "Nah, I'm going to do it. I'm looking for something else. I'm looking for something else."
There was always a temptation.
Yeah, there was, and I felt like I needed to owe it to myself to see how far I could go, and if I had it in me to actually go out there and dip my toe into a different league. So I remember it being around January time, and one of my mates said, Fleetwood's having a good go at the moment. They've got a chairman who's going to heavily back the club the next couple of years, going to be really good going forward. They've got a good manager within Mickey Mellon. He really likes you. He's seen a couple of your games. Why don't you wait until the end of the season and come over? So then the conversation started to happen, and I was like, I don't know if I can wait till the end of the season. I'm ready to go now. I feel I need a new challenge in that. So it was January, and they contacted us, and a deal got sorted out in the end. And 1 minute I was training at TNS on a Monday morning. In fact, it wasn't. It was a Thursday training session, and I got pulled by, I think it was Andy Cale, and they went, Fleetwood are here to sort the deal out with you now. They're upstairs. They want to speak to you and that.
That quick?
That quick.
Yeah.
On a Saturday, I was playing against, Southport for Fleetwood. A blink of an eye.
Do you have any agents or anything? No, Michael. No, you have to sort it yourself?
No, just sorted it myself. Yeah. That I had an agent back in the early days.
Yeah.
I remember having an agent, but Kenny always used to take a mick out of me, saying, "You don't need an agent in the Welsh. Who do you think you are?" and all that. So it always stuck with me, and I think I only stayed with him for a couple of years. And I was getting mature. I was at the age of 25, kind of knew
I'm
a
just
little
saying,
bit now.
It's quick, very quickly. Things are
it
spiraling.
did. It moved quite quickly with it all, but it was scary. It was all I ever known. From the age of 17, 18, all the way up to 25, I've only ever known full-time football at TNS. That was my little group. So when then I knew I was going to be playing for Fleetwood on a Saturday from the Thursday, I actually started having doubts myself. And I remember I was so close to phoning the manager back up at TNS, Andy Cale, and saying, I need help with this. I felt like I might have needed somebody to speak to.
Yeah.
And just talk it through and see what's what. And then in the end, it was done that quick. I was already there. I was in the moment, and the fresh challenge happened, and it was what I needed at that time.
Yeah.
And I done well. I enjoyed it, and played with some really good experienced players at Fleetwood as well. And we started moving in the right direction. We found ourselves at the bottom when I went in January. I think we were at the bottom, but with a load of games in hand at the Conference North. And then we started moving up into the top half, and we just finished just outside the playoffs that season.
Was there a big difference in the style of play, Mike? Because I know TNS play out from the back. You go through the thirds and they get to you.
Yeah.
What was it like at Fleetwood?
Yeah, it was a little bit more direct. It was a little bit more gung-ho football, as in playing in their half through a direct ball. So I had to get used to the physicality a little bit as well. Whereas at TNS, probably protected a little bit. I was protected a little bit from the physicality because of the movement in and around me, and because of the lack of the direct ball, really. So it took a while to get used to it, but I coped with it quite well. And then we moved into the second season, where it was still successful and we were top, but there was a change in dynamics at the football club, one where I couldn't hang my hat on playing every week. And although that's a good thing, and competition for places is really something that should happen at every club, this was getting to a point where they were getting lads from like League One. You know, they were in the Conference North, trying to get into the conference trying to get into the league. They were getting experienced lads coming in on big money, which meant I was coming down the pecking order.
Yeah.
In a football circle, as soon as that starts happening, you start questioning your own ability. You start not being happy as the weekends.
Yeah.
Every weekend's a little bit of a misery because you can't celebrate it enough, you know, with a goal or a win or whatever it is, and reward yourself like that. So psychologically, I was in a little bit of a bad place towards the end of me Fleetwood career, although they were flourishing and they were like top of the league.
Yeah.
So I owed it to myself, and I had to look at myself and think, no, I'm going to have to change this up. I'm going to have to do something different again now. I'm going to have to move. And then that's when I put in a loan request. I knew that I could possibly get out on loan for a little bit. I needed the match fitness. I wasn't getting played week in, week out. And it wasn't down to me not being good enough. It was because there was more resources at that football club. And if there's a lad there on 3 times what you're probably on, they're going to get the nod, and if they do okay then and you're winning, it's what happens in football. It is what happens in football. And there was definitely a change in dynamics at the club, and again it's gone on further and further and further.
So then is this the loan spell at Halifax?
Yeah, so then it was Neil Aspin at the time, who was a very good manager, phoned me up and said, we've got a backlog of games, that we've still got 15 games to play. We can get promoted. We need some more bodies. You've been highly recommended. Will you come in for us? So I did. Again, enjoyed my time there. It was quite easy. I only had to train, when I said easy, because I was still living on the Wirral. I only had to train twice a week and play. So logistically it worked out quite well for me as well. And we got promoted that year as well. And in fact, I got double promotions. So Fleetwood went up, and Halifax went up in the same season. So at the end of the season, there was two reasons to celebrate. Although you haven't been like a major part in one team for that, which is a bit of a weird feeling considering
that bond.
But I still scored for both clubs, and I still
played your part.
Still played my part as well. Yeah.
So then you're at Halifax. Then you moved to Chester.
Yeah. So the Chester thing come about where I was a little bit of a free agent then. I mean, Halifax said that they'd want to go again with me the season after, but I'd have to go down there permanently, which something that probably I didn't want to do. I didn't want to relocate and that. And then it was Youngie who phoned me back up and said, what are you looking at doing? I had a few options. There was a couple of clubs that phoned me up and asked if I'd go and play for them. And I thought, you know what, I'll probably go and speak to Neil and see what his plans were, see what the project looks like at Chester. It's only down the road, and you could have a large fan base. And then when they explained what the situation was, that it just went bust and they're trying to get back up to where it belonged, it was something that I could get my teeth stuck into as well, and something where I believe, and I still believe it, they're a conference club, and I wanted to see that project go to the conference. I wanted to go from all the way through the leagues and do it with a really good fan base, and I managed to do that. You know, I had a really good first season. I scored a lot of goals. I think it was 46 goals in the first year. In the second year, and we got promoted. In the second year, I had a bit of an injury problem. I dislocated my shoulder, come back. I had a little bit of a groin problem, and I probably didn't play as many games as what I wanted to. Probably my first kind of real injury hit season. So then when it came to negotiations at the end of the season, probably didn't go how I wanted them, as I wanted it to. I was disappointed because I created quite a good bond with the Chester fans, you know.
Didn't you used to play a song, The Wild Thing?
Yeah, they played a couple of songs, yeah.
I remember that, me and Tommy went to watch and you scored and it went, wow, I remember that, yeah.
No, it's a really good club, you know, really good club. And again, they do things right. It's a fan-owned club as well, so they are doing it for the community.
And the right reasons.
And the right reasons as well, yeah. So it was a really good experience at Chester, and probably a regret, or not so much a regret, but one of the things that didn't go very well for us was them renegotiations, where I was expecting to even if it was just going on the same money, saying go again,
kick on,
and I wanted to carry on where I left off and said that I'd get them back in the conference, or we would help to get back in the conference, where I couldn't carry that out, which was a little bit gutted about, and that was just down to finance reasons. With getting the money that was offered to me, it was a lower wage.
So that then TNS come back.
Yeah, and then I just finished me degree as well, so I'd done a sports coaching degree, because I knew the football wasn't gonna.
Just a quick one now, Mike. What was that like, playing football and doing a degree as well? Because that's quite hard, isn't it?
It was probably one of the reasons why I picked Chester as well, to do them 2 years, because as I was in Chester, I was in Wrexham University doing a sports coaching degree, and I started my coaching badges then. So it kind of all tied in together. So I was only down the road, so I'd train, and then I'd go to uni, do work, train, go to uni, do work, and I was constantly it was enjoyable because I was learning, I was still training, I was still playing, and it was a really good environment to be in, and it was just up and down the road from each other, so it worked out really well.
It all tied in together.
It did, yeah, and it was one of the reasons why I probably chose Chester as well to play the football for them 2 years.
So what was it like going back to TNS?
It was enjoyable. I mean, I just finished my degree, which is something that I wanted to do, and then I wanted to get back into full-time football and experience them European games again. That was one of the biggest things. I actually wanted to go as far as we could go in Champions League. I mean, there's always this thing of how far can a Welsh club go in Champions League football or even European football. Wanted to try and go as far as I can. That was the big draw really to do it. And after speaking to, first it was Craig Harrison, and then it was Mike Harris after in the second talks, and he said, you know, we want to push again, we want to kick on, but we want to dominate within the Welsh Premier again.
And you did, didn't you?
Oh, we did, yeah. And we dominated it in a way where it wasn't just winning the Welsh League, it was winning trebles. You know, everything that was there, we'd win.
Was that a good time to be in? Good time for yourself as well, because you're going out, you know you're going to score, you know you're playing well, you know your team's strong. Yeah. And you know you're winning trophies.
I mean, I remember looking at the squad that we had. I firmly believe that both squads would have finished first and second. So you could put 2 11s out, and it would have been first and second in that league at that time. I mean, there was Airbus now and again. They would cause us a problem or two, but other than that, you know, the strength and depth we had in our squad was unbelievable.
So how long were you at TNS for then? How long was the period?
That would have been another 6 years. 6 years. Yeah, so that was another 6 years, possibly 2 years and a 2 year. Yeah, and again they were so successful, and I was it was good to concentrate solely on the football after doing the degree as well. So it was like, I can park that, I know I've got that once the football's done. I'm also going to integrate my coaching with it, which I did because I started doing the under-19s and started doing my A licence within TNS. So all that was kind of working within itself as well, and helping out. But the 4 years that I spent there, really enjoyed the second spell more so, and it was probably more enjoyable because I was a senior player as well. I was a little bit older, a little bit more streetwise, a little bit more. I understood the game going back to originally what we talked about. It become a little bit easier. You know, I wasn't that raw 18, 19-year-old just scraping for goals. There was more of a pattern of play to me. There was more of an identity to a player.
Did you think with all the experiences with Fleetwood, Halifax, Chester, you had more to your game then?
Yeah, and confidence as well, because I'd done that thing about going into the English League. Might not have smashed it, but I knew that. And people said, you know, why did you go back? Was it to do with the security? I think it was. I think it was to do with the fact that I could have easily possibly floated around them English leagues, picking up a 1-year contract here and there, but it wouldn't. I'm better when I'm settled. I'm better when still being challenged for a place, but I'm better in sides that are constantly winning, being successful, playing week in, week out, and almost like a figurehead probably in them teams.
You're at TNS and you've had that 6 years, because we've talked a lot about TNS.
Yeah.
So, what you go to Connors Quay then?
Yeah, Connors Quay come about because I think becomes an age situation sometimes at TNS. Obviously, they've got their identity and the way they want to do things, and their progression and pathways of football players and cut-off points. So I come to that age, the tender age, where perhaps they want to maybe get a young lad in and give more game time to a young lad and stuff like that, which football clubs do, and I was fine by. I just wanted to get a new challenge. My new challenge was to kick the old challenge down. So it was almost like, can I beat, or can I have something to do with a new project that would affect TNS in a good way, in a competitive way. And then when I spoke to Jock at the end of the season, he kind of embedded everything like that, and he kind of embraced all that kind of thought process that I was thinking of wanting to challenge, you know, Welsh champions. Just
two very conflicting styles here though, Mike, isn't
100%, yeah.
So, for anyone who doesn't know, who's watching the show, TNS, they play out, like we said before, from the thirds, and Connors Quay, very direct, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which you've got all the tools in your locker, but it's a very, very conflicting style, but it's such a strong style as well. That's proved now that it's a winning style, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's effective. Yeah, it is effective. Probably my first season at Connors Quay, it took me a very long time to adjust. I'd say a very long time. It took longer than what I anticipated. I thought I would be getting chance after chance, goal after goal. I'd be top of the goal scoring charts. My remit was just to get the ball, platform to play off, all that type of stuff. Which it is, which it was. But there was other elements to it, elements that I hadn't seen when I was playing for TNS. Almost like the defensive side of it, which I've been blinded to through TNS. What did hold me in good stead was my time over and playing for Chester, playing for Fleetwood, playing for Halifax. Lent itself more to almost what was getting replicated at Connors Quay.
Right.
Almost TNS could be seen as, I wouldn't say a false style of play, but I'd say sometimes it could be unrealistic if you come up against other teams, you know, and probably not as flexible. But this style is quite strong, and it took me a couple of months, possibly a season, to adjust to it. And it wasn't until my second season I started to really enjoy it. So I started to really understand my role and responsibility within that team.
And did the Jock have a big part to play in that?
Yeah.
Because I've heard his training and he's very thorough in what he wants with the shape and stuff like that. So
I mean the detail is there. I mean the detail is specific. It's to the point, and it gets carried out how he wants it to get carried out. you can't say that's wrong because of the success
There's no
that's
right and
behind
wrong,
it.
mate, is there?
No, there isn't. I mean, I'd like to, and that's the good thing. I mean, going forward in my own coaching career, I've had experience of both sides of it.
Yeah.
And you know yourself, you know, coaches are the biggest thieves in
biggest thieves.
the biggest thieves in the world, aren't they? They'll
Yeah.
lend things, borrow things,
Yeah.
and manipulate
And
it so
recycle
it works.
it to put- yeah,
Exactly.
it is.
So, I mean, the style of TNS of playing through the thirds is something that I like doing. But ultimately, when it's a results-based business,
Yeah.
you know, the directness, the plan B.
Goals pay the rent, mate.
Exactly. And also just the defensive side of it as well. There's a lot I've learnt in the past, well, hell of a lot I've learnt in the past 3 years that I wouldn't have learnt if I would have stayed at TNS.
Oh, brilliant. So, a few quick questions now.
Yeah.
What was the best game ever you were involved in? I think we've touched on that.
Yeah, I think it has to be. I think it has to be the Liverpool game, 100%. Just because of the competitive nature, just because of the fact that it's Champions League as well. It was my first Champions League, and it was my
So that's
team
a
as
quite
well.
easy one. So I'll ask you a different way.
Yeah.
What's your best competitive game in Wales?
The one that sticks out for me was when I was younger, when we played Rill, and there must have been about.
Was that a night game?
No, it was a day game. It was on the telly.
Yeah.
And
Sunshiny day, wasn't it?
That's
I went to that,
yeah. We got beat 1-0, and
Yeah.
it was almost like whoever wins this wins the league.
Yeah.
That's because it's all negative thoughts. Probably that's because I had a negative experience. All the happy experiences, I don't think twice about really. But there is a lot, like even last year, you know, the TNS Connors Key game that I've scored in. That was one of the things that I wanted to tick off. Make sure I've scored against TNS, make sure that we win the league. That type of stuff as well. And that happened. So there's probably a good example there and a bad example of Welsh Prem examples.
Who's the best player you come up against?
Again, I'll have to go with Steven Gerrard. Only because of the preciseness of his first touch, the intelligence. You know, you probably look at him and think, he's not the quickest player, and he probably isn't. But the technique, the preciseness of his first touch in order to know what the second touch is then doing is something that I haven't come across. Stepping past players, the weight he does that in makes it look effortless. But the amount of practice and the amount of ability level it's needed to do that was huge. Yeah,
I was put in.
I mean, by far. And then we talk technically. Also Gianfranco Zola played against him when we played Chelsea. Again, he scored 3 goals against us, and he ran the show. When someone runs the show, everything went through him. Everything was. There wasn't an attack that didn't have him involved in it. Slightly different with Gerrard. Gerrard was making the box in order to get on the end of things as well. He was like a more dynamic box-to-box midfielder, and also spraying passes. But Gianfranco Zola would be intricate with what he was doing. Drop of the shoulders. Oh, yeah, he had everything.
So, how would you describe Mike Wilde, the number 9?
Hard-working, enthusiastic, competitive. I'm probably a little bit clever, and I don't want to big myself up too much about that.
Then people people might think, oh, he's not that clever, but you're in the right place at the right time.
With the movements, I think, I think more of a, when I say clever in just to be able to gain that little bit of half a yard or whatever it might be. Yeah. But that's only on a good day. Sometimes I'm not clever.
So, just moving on from that, Mike, because I know you're a coach as well, so what's the touch? Obviously, you got your Sammy, you've done really well.
I'll just come straight from Sammy, so apologies.
So you've done really well. So, what was your journey into coaching now that you're at Sammy? How did that evolve?
Again, it was probably at a time where I knew football wasn't going to pay the bills after I finished playing. You know, I knew I wasn't going to do enough in the game in order to retire and go to wherever it is, Vegas and that, and set up shop there. But so I just started thinking, what do I enjoy doing? Whether it would be in a full-time aspect, part-time aspect, whatever it was. And because of the process I've been on, and because of the journey I've been on, I was learning at 25 my trade still, and it was just easy then to try and make it into a career as well. So as I was learning, I was banking little things and just thinking, yeah, I'll use that. And then I wanted to make sure then, could I develop young lads? Would I be interested in coaching? And it is something that, you know, I wanted to get into, as well as the teaching side of it as well.
So from my point of view with the coaching, when I got into it, it's like a bug, innit?
Yeah.
It gets inside you.
Yeah,
and
it is, yeah.
You just love it, don't you?
Yeah.
Once you're up and running, mate,
Yeah,
it's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
It's very addictive as well, and then you're wanting to improve. And working with young players and with all the experiences you've had, I know I've phoned you a few times over things centre forwards can do and stuff like that, and I've had lads watch you in the Welsh League, especially even now when I'm at Buckley Town, lads watching and saying bits they can do. You know, arrive and what time to arrive and stuff like that.
I think that's what it is. It's now passing your experiences on to other lads, and it might not just be from also you're in your position. You know, it might be something that it might be something psychological as well, because there was times where I thought lads were better than me. I didn't deserve to be on a pitch, and I get asked a lot of that. You know. Yeah. Just because they had an academy affiliated to them or attached to them or whatever it might be, or he had to trial at Man U or he was there for a year, that would make him be in a better position or technically better. Now, I'm not a firm believer of the technical ability is going to only get you so far. It's the hard work, the enthusiasm and all that is going to be the one that if I can install that into enough young lads and then a team, then that is what drives a football match on and success in football.
Yeah, dead right. So with that, I know a lot of people talk about these philosophies. Have you got a personal philosophy? Or do you believe in philosophies? We hear people go on about them all the time, but it's not necessarily that you've got to have one, or you might just have a set of values.
I think values and beliefs are the first thing.
Yeah.
I think because philosophies get mixed up, I think a club has to have a philosophy, and then are you going to have time in order to implement your philosophy as a coach or a manager as well? Yeah. They're two different things. Yeah. I don't think coaches nowadays, especially at the elite level, unless you're a Pep Guardiola or a Klopp or whatever it might be, will have enough time to actually impact the philosophy on a football team. So you have to go in there with values and beliefs, and almost the values and beliefs are the one is what will get you the results, which is what you need to start then your philosophy.
I think we're talking through your career there, you must have had a set of values that you've lived to play as long as you have as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's always about working hard. It's all about rewarding yourself afterwards as well. Yeah. You have to break away from giving you that work hard, but then make sure you're rewarding yourself. And then it's an absolute cycle. Otherwise, you'll just spiral yourself into an actual kind of point where you won't want to do it. Yeah. One thing that's always stood out with me is I've probably not had that elitism, the League One playing or the League Championship, which gives me that drive and the enthusiasm to keep going because I want to sample it. Lads who have had that, sometimes it diminishes and probably go, they're a bit more frivolous about their football and a little bit more take it or leave it. Probably I'm still at a point where I still want to strive to be able to do something. And an idealistic philosophy would be playing through the thirds, would be, attractive football, possession based, but with that intent to make sure that it's, front foot football, attacking style, everything that I like doing as a player. That's mainly my philosophy. Will you ever be able to actually put that down on a bit of paper and show it in front of a chairman and say, give me 2 years to be able to produce this? I don't know. Or do you get assigned a football club that wants that type of football and goes and headhunt you? That's another thing as well.
So you've done your batches, haven't you, Mike? You've got up to your A licence, and then obviously now you're full-time coach and stuff like that. Is there any chance you can get on the pro? Or?
I'd like to think so. I mean, as I say, I haven't done my badges for just doing them sake. I've done it because I love the process of the education, the coach education, the experiences that brought. I like learning off other people. I mean, I'm so receptive of other coaches as well. I'm not one of these who thinks I've got all the ideas, all the answers or nothing like that, because 100% I'm not. I'm still on a very early learning curve. So I would like to continue that. I'd want to take it one step further and probably go into more of a in-depth, like psychologically as well, you know, and that's what the pro license does. Only time will tell if that does happen or not. Like,
have you any advice for young strikers on the Whittle now coming through? Enjoy
scoring. You'll know when you're a striker if you're constant with the scoring and constant with smiling. You know, because there's no better feeling. That is probably why
it's got to be the best part of football.
100%, yeah. You know, that is why I'm trying to do what I do still now, really, is because I don't think I'm going to find anything that replaces it, and that's the scary thing. So I don't know if I'm ready to let go of it. And it might be a game in the Welsh Prem, it might be a more competitive game in Europe. No matter what game that is, the feeling is, I don't think it's going to be very hard to replicate and replace that. I hope a coach...
You get like an inner glow. Like,
it's self...
For the whole team, that you've actually got the end product, putting it in the net.
It is. It's self-pride a little bit. I mean, there's no better feeling sometimes than it finishing 1-0 and you being the one that scored that goal. You know, I was never really a big fan, although, you know, of these 6-0 wins at TNS. And I used to hate it when we was 6-0 win and you didn't score. But even a 6-0 win and I only scored one was probably worse than... I'd much rather like a 1-0 win or a 2-0 win and I've scored one.
Just a quick question then. Do you know how many goals you've actually scored?
Well, I'm actually on 199 for Welsh Prem goals. Yeah. So just about to hit the two, hopefully this weekend I could hit the 200 mark on that. Yeah. I think overall probably talking, with the cup competitions, with them me stint over in England, probably looking at just under 400, I would have thought.
That's a lot of goals, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, especially when you compare it to, when I compare it to my start, I think ratio possibly like 1 every 2 games, which, considering, I'd like to think I've brought other elements to the game, as my game now. Like I remember saying about early on in my career, it was literally about goals, and I didn't represent much more. Now I'd like to think there's, you know,
all-round play.
Yeah, making bad balls look good, half decent, bringing other people's defensive side, organising that type of stuff, maybe bringing other people into play, all that type of stuff.
Any regrets, Mike?
I don't.
Was it that one you touched on before, saying, you know, when you see people who've been at academies or anything like that, and you should have thought, well, I am better than you anyway, don't care where you've been. Yeah,
possibly that one, possibly being a little bit more confident in my own ability earlier on in my earlier years and not doubting myself a little bit. Maybe not going over to the English side of it, maybe a little bit earlier, that could be another one. But there's not too much that I would regret.
So final question, Mike. What do you see happening in the future for Mike Wilde?
I don't know. I think it's busy at the moment, which is great. Which is great, especially under the current circumstances and that. You know, back playing football and back coaching as well. So as long as I'm continuing to do that, I'll be happy. What do we see in the future? Hopefully, just more goals at the moment, and obviously making the programme at Tranmere grow from strength to strength, and I'm bringing through some development players on a bit more continuous basis as well.
Any management jobs in the future, did you do?
Again, probably touching on, I think if it suits, if it's right, and I think the project's got to be right, especially if you're going in that full-time kind of environment. I think, of course, it's something that I'm looking towards. I wouldn't have done my badges, as I said, if I didn't. But I just think I'm not just jumping for jumping's sake. It has to, I believe it has to be the right type of environment and the right type of project.
That's brilliant, mate. Anyway, Mike, that's the final whistle.
That was brilliant. I enjoyed
Thank you very much, mate.
Thanks very much, mate.
Hope you enjoyed the show. I especially enjoyed that, and I'm sure Mike is a big influence for centre forwards on the Whittle. Get us on YouTube, watch the show on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button. Also, please get on Insta. We're on Insta and Facebook. And see you in the next show. Thanks very much. See you soon.